Welcome back. In this video, we're going to take a look at extracting valuable data from the HTML that we have collected. Now, if you haven't noticed, what I have done is deleted my venv environment. That means I no longer have access to my import requests. This is going to happen quite often, especially as you go into work. Generally, code is stored on a remote server. So when you join work, you're just going to pull the code down. It's not going to have the virtual environment that you work in. So venv isn't going to be set up for you. You always have to set it up. And then all the packages that you're downloading, you will have to re-download them. So what we want to do is make the process of recreating your virtual environment as easy as possible. And by the way, if you try to run your application without creating a virtual environment, this is what you're going to see. No module named requests, okay? Requests isn't installed on our computer. If you go ahead and install requests now, it's going to be in the global namespace. We want to keep that global namespace as clean as possible, okay? So let's go ahead and set up a virtual environment, virtual env, and again, we'll just call it venv, and we'll do the same steps to reactivate it. We'll step into the virtual environment, so venv, script, and I'm using tab to autocomplete and activate. Now we're inside the virtual environment. Requests isn't the only package that you can have. Imagine you have hundreds of packages. Do you have to go around all the files looking for all these packages and install them one by one? No, okay? You can keep a list of the packages that you require. This is how this is done. You create a new file and you call it requirements.txt. This is a convention. You can call it whatever you want, but generally you will find a requirements.txt. You then take the name of the package that you want to install, you put it in here, and then you run pip install, and instead of specifying the package that you want to install, you specify the file. You don't just write the file name, otherwise it will think it's a package. So you have to say that I'm about to specify a requirements file. So you put a -r flag, and then you specify a requirements.txt file. It's then going to go through all the packages and install them. We should now have our requirements package installed. So if we rerun our main.py, it should be working without any problems. If you have your browser session still open with Khabib, what we're going to do is we're just going to get a list of names of all of his opponents. So that will be Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, and all those other people. We can also get additional information around where the fight, when the fight was happening, what was the event, etc. Let's go ahead and open up DevTools. I'm going to do that by opening up Inspect. And what we're working with is this insanely big HTML file, okay? Look at this. This is huge. How could we possibly in here find an individual piece of content that we're looking for? Well, people have already tried this. This problem is solved for a long time, and there are tools that exist for it. First, we're going to take a look at Beautiful Soup, one of the more popular tools, and then we're going to take a look at some alternatives. Let's open a new tab and search for Python Beautiful Soup. Pretty sure I spelled that incorrectly. Beautiful is a hard word to spell. And we should be able to find something like this. I think there is also a different version of this, so let's just make sure that we can see it. So I'll just accept all here. And Python Beautiful Soup. So you'll be Googling for something like this. And here is another version of this website that you can find what you're looking for the first time that you're ever trying to use a package. You're looking for the installation instruction. So generally on the left-hand side menu, notice how documentation tries to follow the same pattern. You have some kind of installation instructions and specifically try to look for pip install. Remember that now that we're using a requirements file, we don't want to just be using pip install. We will grab the package name. We will come back to our project, go into requirements.txt and put Beautiful Soup into here. We can then rerun pip install -r requirements. This will ignore already installed requirements like requests, and it will install your additional requirements like Beautiful Soup. Let's come back to main.py and try to use Beautiful Soup. If you just don't know how to use it, go ahead, back to the documentation. Generally, you have a quick start section that literally just gets your foot through the door, and then you have a bunch of different options that you can look at. I'm going to close this documentation and we're going to look at this one. So I'm going to click on quick start. we are defining some HTML doc string. We already have it in the contents of the request, or we can load it from a file. So we don't need to copy all of this. All we need to know is that we need some kind of variable that contains HTML. We then from BS4 import beautiful soup. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. And by the way, if you are wondering on the difference between import and from namespace or from package import some kind of construct, we can do the same with requests. Let's say that we just want get. So from requests package, we want to import get. And now we can just use get without specifying requests dot. So we're importing get specifically. Here we have beautiful soup. Let's see how it's being used. We have soup, some kind of variable. We create this beautiful soup object. We pass the HTML doc in there. And then we also specify some kind of parser or some kind of string. At the moment, not sure what this is. So let's go ahead and copy this. This is where our HTML is. We are going to go ahead, load it up like this and take the response doc, remove it from the print and just replace HTML doc with response.text. We will delete this print, put a little line here so we get a little bit of separation so we know we're working with the soup here. We can comment out this saving to a file. And now let's go after some kind of easy parameter from the HTML page. For example, the title. So this text that appears here in the tab comes from the title. So if you scroll all the way up, you're going to have this title here. And we're going to see Khabib Nurmagomedov Wikipedia. So this is what we're after. Let's see how we can extract that. Here is an example. Here are some ways to navigate to that data structure, right? Please try some of these on your own. I am just going to output the title. Okay, we'll come back here. It's called print, soup, and title. We'll rerun the application and we can see the whole HTML element being printed. We can also see the name, which will be the name of the title, and then the string, which is going to be the contents. We can also get ourselves to the parent. So HTML elements have an opening and a closing tag, and this is the body. Same as you have a body or scope of a with statement or something that ends with a colon and defines a body, HTML elements have a body as well. It's anything in between the opening and the closing element. And title lives in the body of another element called head. You can see there is no closing head tag, which ends with a /head before we reach the title. That means it must be somewhere down there. So head, in this sense, acts as a parent of the title and all of the other tags that are in here. Nevertheless, let's go ahead and zoom in on the title itself. So we want to get the string, soup.title.string. We'll rerun and we can see the individual title. Now we'll step it up and go for the opponents. We're going to come back here. We're going to scroll down and here we go. So we will inspect. If you hover over these elements, you can see exactly where we're looking. Each individual TR element is a opponent, except this first one, which is a header. As a beginner, you generally don't want to go straight for the money, all of these different fighters. You want to slowly try to approach the element. So if you can't zoom in on this, try to zoom in on the table. If you can't zoom in on the table, find the logical parent, perhaps this whole body here, which is, well, going to be pretty much the whole article. So we're going to come back here because now in this element tree, I have lost where I am and these styles are getting in the way. So let's clear this up a little bit. And then I'm going to use this select an element in the page to inspect it and hover over this table again. So just on the win there. And let's try to zoom in on this table. We'll come back here. We'll look through this example to maybe get some kind of idea of what we can look for. Looks like we have a function called find all. What you can do is you can just control copy, control F to search the page and look for everything that contains find all. You should be able to find a function and it will basically describe what this function is doing and how you can use it. Here what it's doing is it's trying to find all anchors. We can try and go ahead just to find all table elements. Okay, so if we come back here, table is a type of element. If we take a little closer look at a link, so we'll just click here, you will see it's an A tag, which stands for anchor. Okay, these can sometimes be referred to as links, but the HTML element is called anchor. So let's try this. We'll come back here, we'll just copy this line of code. We'll come back to the code, where we'll place this here. We'll replace A with table. Again, if you're not sure, come back to the page and verify the name of the element. Looks like I have spelled table correctly. And because it's going to find all of them, these are going to be tables. We obviously want to see what it returns because we can't possibly know. So printing it is the next logical step. We will rerun. I will make the terminal a little bit bigger and let's inspect this. Looks like some of this stuff is awards and stuff like that. We're not really interested in it. So what we will look for are individual fighters, and there seems to be quite a bit of stuff here, so we could, but we're not getting what we really want to. So let's collapse this and let's see if we can narrow down the range by which we're looking. We're gonna try to filter. We want to filter out the trash. Let's come back to the documentation and look for something else here. Looks like find all allows us to filter by an identifier. So if we take a look at the arguments, the first argument that we pass seems to be a name, so just the name of the element. And then we can pass keyword arguments where we can specify attributes. HTML attributes are the things that are contained on the HTML tag itself, not in the body. The body contains other HTML elements. The head or the opening HTML tag contains attributes. We can try to filter by the class attribute that equals wiki table. I'll double click here and I'll just copy the whole thing. I'll come back to the code. I'll place a comma and paste in class equals wiki table. Class is a Python keyword, so it looks like it doesn't like it. We'll come back to Beautiful Soup and see what it says about it. I can't see an example of specifying a class specifically, but I can see an example of using attributes. So instead of specifying attribute by attribute, we're just going to specify a dictionary of attributes. Okay, so we'll say authors, then create a dictionary, and then the first key is going to be class. So let's place it here, colon, and then the value that we want the class to contain, which is wiki table. Let's rerun our application. Looks like we still have quite a big collection, although we are already a little bit closer. Let's see how close we are. That means how many tables are we getting? 2? 3? Maybe we just say scrape all of the tables and the second or third one is the one that we need. Let's print tables, and because it's going to be a collection, we just want to use the len keyword, which is going to count up the elements in a collection. Let's open up the terminal. We're going to rerun the application, and it looks like we're collecting 6 tables. Now, what we can do is we can act a little bit silly, and let's just say we'll press 1 here or put 1 there, and are we getting something that remotely represents fighters? No, it doesn't. Let's check the next one. Anything in here? And that looks like it. So 5-0, 4-0, and 4-0 Shamil Abulkarim. I can't spell his name. So 4-0 Shamil Abdulkarimov. Okay, I did not dishonor his name. For this, we'll create a matches variable and store the table in there. We'll then reopen up the terminal and we are looking for a TD element. From this particular table, so matches, we want to find all elements that are called TD. We'll just call them TDs and let's print them. We get something that looks like this, where we can see the 0 and O and the name of the opponent. However, this data is a little bit mixed in with all the other information in the same row. If we take a look at the page, we would have to somehow get the third column in the row, okay? We are currently just saying get all of the columns. That means we're losing context around which column to get. So first, let's go ahead and back out a little bit, stop getting the individual TDs, and actually first get the individual TRs. So table row, that's what TR stands for. TD, I have no clue what that stands for. Okay, so we want the third one in each of these. Let's come back, we'll drop down the terminal, and instead of TDs, we're gonna get TRs. I'll rename the variable and what we're printing, and then I will also remove the print of the length of the table. We'll come back and rerun the application. The information here is pretty much the same, but we can see the individual TR, and we're after this third TD. Coming back to the file, if we have all of the TRs, let's iterate over all of them. For TR in TRs, we will get all of the TDs. So find all TD, these will be the TDs, and then we want to get the third one. Remember that collections start count from 0, so we specify index 2. And if you're not sure what a TDS looks like at this point, go ahead and print it here. I will just put a break statement here as well, just so we only print a single thing, not the whole shebang. I'll comment out the printing of all the TRS, rerun the application, and we are gonna see an empty array, a little bit unexpected, although it is this first row where we actually have TH. This is where we can say that if TDS, or let's say length of TDS, is 0, and an empty array will actually just return false, so we can say not TDS and just continue in this case. Let's save the file, rerun the application, and now we will get a bunch of TDs. If we then go ahead and extract the third one, which is again index 2, rerun the application, we're gonna get the individual name of the fighter or of the opponent. Let's create a variable before the for loop. These are gonna be our opponents. Opponents, this is going to be an empty collection that we want to fill. Once we extract the opponent node, so opponent node, and actually, sorry for breaking convention, variable names in Python is snake case convention. We take TDS, put it over here, remove this one because, well, that was just duplicate code, and we'll actually remove the break statement because we want to iterate over everything. Same as we got the string for the title, we want to get the string from the opponent node and add that string to the opponents. So let's take opponents, place it over here, and then we will append opponent node and navigate to the string member, and that should give us our opponents. We'll remove this print statement, uncomment this print statement, and print out all of the opponents after iterating over them. Let's rerun our application, and there we have it. Some of them are there, some of them are none. The reason some of them are none is if we look at the individual TD of the opponent, we're gonna see a link. So TD itself doesn't have a string, it has a child element of A. So we can try to look for this child element of A when TD text returns none. We'll come back here, drop down the terminal. On the opponent node, let's try to extract the name first. We'll select opponent node.string and we'll say opponent name. If opponent name is not none, let's just add it to the list. Take opponent name, place it over here, and then we're gonna continue. The reason I'm placing continue here and not using else ifs is because if you're reading this, you're just saying, okay, this is where it finishes, nothing else happens here, all good. If we don't encounter this condition, what do we do next? On the opponent node, we're gonna grab the A element. Again, if you're unsure what I'm doing here, you can always come back to the documentation, go all the way back to the top, and where it's supplying this HTML here, you will see in the example that you're capable of navigating to HTML tags just by using the dot, the member accessor. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to access the anchor on the opponent node and then get the string. I will then take the opponent name and place it over here and try to reappend it. Format the code a little bit and let's see what we have. Now the list looks a little bit more complete. We have a couple of new trailing lines on the end. Furthermore, you can see that we're doing an append twice. Try to pause the video here, see if you can remove this duplication. Otherwise, let's continue. I'm going to say that the opponent name, if it is none, let's try to reset it from here and take this outside here and remove the continue. So if the original set fails, let's try to set it again this way. Having the opponent name, I can try to strip the new line off the end. So this will be \n, and I think it will be either a strip R or strip left or something like that, or actually strip will probably work on both ends of the string. But here are all the names of the opponents of Khabib. Finally, what we're going to do is we're going to take this JSON array and we will just go ahead and dump it to a file as well. Having all of these opponents, we're going to import JSON. So import JSON. This is an inbuilt library, so we don't need to install any packages or anything like that. JSON dump s, dump to string, or load s to load from string. Let's take all of the opponents. We are gonna dump opponents to a string. So we're converting an object to a string. We can name this opponents JSON. We'll put print up here and opponents JSON down here, just so we can see the difference. Bring up the terminal back, rerun it, and you can see the top version. We have the array and then single quoted strings. Here we have double quoted strings. So JSON requires you to use double quotes, and the reason we're converting to JSON is because it's an intermediate format, and part of the series is we're going to be working with JSON a lot, so it's better to just introduce it here so you're a little bit more familiar with it. Let's come back to the code. We will bring back our writing code. We'll say Khabib opponents, and then we're writing opponents JSON, and we want to change the extension of the file to .json as well. Let's rerun the application. There we have it. Let's take a look at the file. Here we have all of the opponents. If I press Alt-Shift-F, I'm going to format the file and I will be able to see them row by row. And there we have it. Essentially downloading an HTML page and then programmatically being able to navigate or zoom in on a component of a page and extract meaningful data with it. You can do further things like also trying to extract the link, and this is something that we're going to work towards, looking at these links and then following those links. We'll also take a look at how we can reach this data using different methods. But for now, this is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. If you have any questions or just want to say thank you, leave a comment. If you want the source code, come support me on my Patreon. Your support will be, and for those who are supporting me, it is very much appreciated. You help me make these videos. Again, hope you enjoyed the video and have a good day.